ASEAN meeting agrees to tighten implementation of MCO 3.0. Malaysia and China exploring new areas to strengthen cooperation. Good evening. Thanks for joining us. You're watching News at 10. I'm Shuhaida Arifin. The government has decided to tighten the enforcement of Movement Control Order MCO 3.0 by adding restrictions to the economic and social sectors. This was announced by the Prime Minister's Office PMO in a statement tonight following a special National Security Council NSC meeting on the management of COVID-19 chaired by Prime Minister Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin. PMO said the details on the additional restrictions will be announced by Senior Minister for Security Datuk Sri Ismail Sabri Yaakob tomorrow. It added that the special meeting today involved the various state governments in a bid to gain their input on the situation in each state as well as to obtain their views on the efforts being made to curb the spread of the virus. The meeting noted that the SOPs for the current MCO 3.0 affecting since 12th May have been tightened, including banning interstate and inter-district travel, sporting and recreational activities, as well as conference and face-to-face meetings. However, it said the virus is continuing to spread within the community with new, more aggressive variants with a high infectivity rate, delaying efforts to curb the spread. A number of areas in Tawau, Kluang and Kuala Lumpur have now come under the Enhanced Movement Control Order from 23rd May to 5th June. Senior Minister for Security Datuk Sri Ismail Sabri Yaakob said the EMCO was implemented in these areas after a risk assessment by several agencies and with the advice of the Health Ministry. The Senior Minister said for the EMCO in Kampung Pagar Sungai Imam Tawau, Sabah, the Health Ministry has conducted 35 screenings and 24 of them are COVID-19 positive. The Health Ministry has also conducted 33 screenings at the Oceanic Fabric Mill Dormitory in Kluang, Johor, and 25 of them are COVID-19 positive. Some 99 screening tests were also conducted at the Purnabina factory in Kluang, with 31 of them positive. For the EMCO at Kampung Batu Muda Tambahan and the People's Housing Project PPR in Kampung Limau in Kuala Lumpur, Datuk Sri Ismail Sabri said some 76 positive cases were found at the Kampung Batu Muda Tambahan out of 300 screening tests. In the PPR at Kampung Limau, 59 residents were found to be positive out of 150 people screened. Meanwhile, he also said that 3 villages in the Bunut Susu sub-district in Pasir Mas, Kelantan will have their EMCO extended. The 3 villages are Kampung Payu Ular, Kampung Becah Palas and Kampung Tualang. The EMCO was originally scheduled to end on 22nd May, but is now extended from 23rd May to 5th June. The second round of AstraZeneca opt-in will be available for registration at noon on Sunday. The National COVID-19 Immunization Program Coordinating Minister Khairi Jamaluddin said the registration would only be open to residents in the Klang Valley, Pulau Pinang, Johor, Kuching and Miri who are above the age of 60. Sharing the information on his Twitter account today, Khairi said those who are interested may register via vaccine.gov.my. The first round of the vaccine opt-in was opened on 2nd May with all 268,000 slots fully booked in just 3 hours and 20 minutes. Previously, Khairi, who is also Minister of Science, Technology and Innovation, said that the second phase will be open exclusively for senior citizens aged 60 and above from 23rd to 26 May and to those under 60 after that. He also said the second phase of the vaccination would prioritize individuals who are on the first round waiting list. Malaysia is scheduled to receive 1.1 million doses of AstraZeneca vaccine by the end of this month through procurement from the COVAX facility. New COVID-19 cases in Malaysia have remained above the 6,000 mark, with 6,493 infections reported today, and Selangor again tops the list at 2,163. The pandemic is also raging on, with 50 fatalities in the last 24 hours. Health Director General Tan Sri Dr. Nur Hisham Abdullah informed that the cumulative COVID-19 cases in the country now stand at 498,795. The new cases involved 6,491 local transmissions and 2 import cases. There are 643 individuals being treated in the intensive care units ICU currently, with 363 of them requiring respiratory aid, taking the tally of active cases to 52,106, while 4,508 recoveries were also recorded. Meanwhile, he said there were 18 new clusters detected today. This, he said, took the number of active clusters to 529.
Dan sifat untuk penularan sempatan.
Saat itu kita mengimpikan kemenangan. Namun, tak seindah impian. Ternyata bukan senang nak menang kalau SOP diperkotak-katikkan.
There will be no electricity supply cut for domestic users in the peninsula who have less than 6 months of arrears at 30th June. Energy and Natural Resources Minister Datuk Dr. Syamsul Anwar Nasarah said the initiative, in cooperation with Tenaga Nasional Berhad TNB, will benefit 6.96 million domestic users during the Movement Control Order MCO. In a statement today, the minister said TNB will be extending its easy payment plan services until 31st December to assist domestic accounts to manage their electricity bill payments. He hoped this initiative will be able to preserve the well-being of the public in challenging economic conditions during the pandemic. On 21st December last year, Dr. Syamsul Anwar said that the government agreed that no electricity supply cut should be implemented to domestic consumers who have less than 6 months arrears from 1st January to 31st March this year. This category of consumers will be given the facility to schedule payment installments for 6 months from 1st January to 30th June. In other news, the Kelantan state government has collected a total 3.65 million ringgit in its 9-day donation drive for the Palestinian Fund. Menteri Besar Dato' Ahmad Yaakob today said the donation, kicked off on 13th May, came from various quarters, adding that the collection far exceeded the state government's target for the fund. Dato' Ahmad also thanked donors for their generosity, and this showed their concern over the Palestinians' plight.
Terutama sekali ialah kita nak bantu mereka yang masih lagi berada di hospital kerana cacat cedera ataupun kecederaan daripada perlu berpandu juga bom daripada Israel. Yang kedua ialah untuk kita membantu mereka dari segi prasarana, hospital, elektrik, bekalan air, sekolah dan sebagainya, insya-Allah.
He added that the money will be sent to the government by Prime Minister's Special Envoy to West Asia. He also said that the state government is planning to continue with the second series of donation drive beginning today. Malaysia and China are exploring new areas of common interest to strengthen bilateral collaboration apart from existing cooperation in economy, trade and investment. Prime Minister Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin, who held a discussion by video conference with Chinese Premier Li Keqiang this morning, said the cooperation included aspects of COVID-19 vaccine production through the fill and finish method in Malaysia and collaborations in the fields of electronic commerce, high technology and digital economy. The Premier said other areas of cooperation were in agriculture and agro-food, development of food security and poverty eradication programs. In a posting on his Facebook account today, Tan Sri Muhyiddin said the Chinese government has given a very positive response for these proposed collaborations to be discussed in greater detail at the relevant ministerial level. On COVID-19, Tan Sri Muhyiddin said they saw the need for closer and more proactive cooperation between the two countries to overcome the pandemic and drive the recovery process, including continued collaboration in fields which had been agreed upon, such as vaccine supply, food security and secure supply chains. At the meeting, the first ever between the two leaders, Tan Sri Muhyiddin and Lee also touched on international issues involving the situation in Palestine and Myanmar. Both agreed that situations affecting the people of the two countries and surrounding regions need immediate pressure from the whole international community for the issues to be settled fast. Malaysia's inflation rises 4.7% in April, highest since 2018.
With the MERS 999 application system, getting emergency assistance is now easier. Save Me 999 Police connects the Malaysian public to the police. Save Me 999 Deaf for those with hearing or speech impairments. And Save Me 999 Blind for those with visual impairments. Download now for free on your smartphones. MERS 999 and applications make emergency calls easier.
Police seized drugs worth an estimated 14.5 million ringgit and arrested 8 local men from 2 separate drug trafficking syndicates operating in the Klang Valley on 17th and 18th May. Selangor Police Chief Dato' R. Junaidi Muhammad said during the raid, police confiscated cash, jewellery, 4 luxury watches and 5 vehicles as well as money in accounts with a total value of 1.39 million ringgit.
2021 lebih kurang jam 1.20 tengah hari, pasukan polis Jabatan Siasatan Jenayah daripada Bukit Aman telah berjaya membuat tangkapan yang pertama pada mulanya atas seorang lelaki India di sebuah yang berada dalam sebuah kereta Perodua Maivi di sebuah kondominium di Bandar Kinrara, Selangor. Dan dalam pemeriksaan yang dijalankan telah berjaya merampas satu kotak yang mengandungi 10 bungkusan plastik yang mengandungi bahan yang kita syaki sebagai syabu dengan anggaran berat lebih kurang 10.3 kilogram dan juga 14 bungkusan yang mengandungi bahan yang kita syaki sebagai heroin dengan anggaran berat 6.3 kilogram.
Police also found 1.08 billion ringgit cash believed to be income derived from drug distribution activities. The arrests from this syndicate involved 6 men aged between 24 and 45 years old, and all the suspects had previous drug records, while the results from urine tests found one of them to be positive for ganja use. Meanwhile, on 18th May, the Selangor NCID busted the second syndicate following the arrest of men in Perkembangan. The suspect then took them to a nearby house and police seized 2 canvas bags as well as 2 boxes containing 148 pieces of suspected heroin base and 4 canvas bags containing 78 packages of suspected shabu. Police also found some equipment used for drug packaging activities. Police also raided a condominium in Perkembangan and detained another man for investigation. Junaidi said the suspects from the 2 syndicates were remanded for between 2 to 7 days starting 18th May. The case was investigated under Section 39B of the Dangerous Drug Act. A senior officer of the Malaysian Maritime Enforcement Agency MMEA pleaded not guilty in Kuantan Sessions Court today to 13 counts of accepting bribes totaling 28,000 ringgit from 2019 to last year. Muhammad Sulhan Zainon, 51, who is Johor MMEA's Tanjung Sedeli Maritime Zone Director, was allowed bail of 10,000 ringgit in one surety by Judge Dato Ahmad Zamzani Muhammad Zain, who set 30th June for mention. Muhammad Sulhan was charged with accepting the bribe from a company directors as an inducement not to carry out inspections on ships. He was accused of committing the offence at a bank in Bukit Ubi between 19th April 2019 and 27th November 2020. The charge under Section 25, Subsection 1 of the Malaysian Anti-Corruption Act 2009, punishable under Section 25, Subsection 2 of the same Act, carries a maximum jail term of 10 years or a maximum fine of 100,000 ringgit or both upon conviction. Muhammad Sulhan was represented by counsel Datuk Shukri Muhammad, while Deputy Public Prosecutor of the Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission, Wan Shaharuddin Wan Ladin, appeared for the prosecution. Malaysia's inflation as measured by the Consumer Price Index CPI rose 4.7% year-on-year in April this year, the highest since 2018. In a statement today, Department of Statistics Malaysia DOSM Chief Statistician Datuk Seri Dr. Muhammad Uzir Mahidin said the increase in the overall index was driven by the 27% increase in the transport index due to the low base effect from the preceding year. He also said the trend is expected to continue until the first quarter of 2022. The chief statistician said housing, water, electricity, gas and other fuels rose 3.1% compared to the previous year. Furthermore, the index of food and non-alcoholic beverages increased 1.9% from a year ago due to the shortage in supply, higher demand and uncertainty in weather. Even though the overall index increased, Datuk Seri Dr. Muhammad Uzir said that the core index, which excludes most volatile items of fresh food as well as administered prices of goods and services, increased 0.7% in April. Out of 552 items covered in CPI, he said 366 items showed an increase in April. On the contrary, 116 items declined while 70 items were unchanged. Bank Negara Malaysia's BNM international reserves stood at $110.6 billion as at 12th May this year. In a statement today, it said the reserves position was sufficient to finance 8.4 months of retained imports and was 1.1 times total short-term external debt. The central bank said the main components of the international reserves were foreign currency reserves, $101.3 billion, International Monetary Fund reserve position, $1.5 billion, special drawing rights SDRs, $1.2 billion, gold, $2.1 billion, and other reserve assets at $4.5 billion. The assets comprise gold and foreign exchange and other reserves, including SDRs amounting to 458.92 billion ringgit ringgit, Malaysian government papers 11.43 billion ringgit, deposits with financial institutions 2.80 billion ringgit, loans and advances 19.85 billion ringgit, land and buildings 4.16 billion ringgit, and other assets 15.84 billion ringgit. The central bank added that capital and liabilities comprised paid up capital 100 million ringgit, reserves 175.1 billion ringgit, currency in circulation 146.01 billion ringgit, deposits by financial institutions 147.82 billion ringgit, federal government deposits 11.71 billion ringgit, other deposits 9.63 billion ringgit. Foreign segment, G20 EU hosts Global Health Summit on COVID solutions. An Egyptian-mediated truce between the Zionist regime and Hamas took hold today after the worst violence in years, with U.S. President Joe Biden pledging to salvage the devastated Gaza Strip and the United Nations urging renewed dialogue between the belligerents. Israeli aerial bombardment of the densely populated enclave killed 232 Palestinians, damaged thousands of homes and disabled critical infrastructure. Palestinians who had spent 11 days huddled in fear of the regime's shelling poured into Gaza's street, embracing one another in celebration in front of bombed-out buildings and along streets covered in wreckage. Mosque loudspeakers also feted the victory of the resistance achieved over the Israeli occupation forces. In the countdown to the ceasefire, around 2 a.m. local time, Israel carried out at least one airstrike, followed by Palestinian rocket salvos. Each side said it stood ready to retaliate for any truce violations by the other. Egypt said it would send 2 delegations to monitor the ceasefire. The Zionist act of aggression and terror towards the Palestinians since 10th May meant that many Palestinians in Gaza could not mark the Eid al-Fitr festival at Ramadan's conclusion. Early today, postponed Eid al-Fitr meals were held throughout Gaza. Meanwhile, Malaysia has urged the world to focus on humanitarian and reconstruction aid for the Palestinian people following the Egypt-brokered Zionist-Hamas ceasefire late Thursday. Foreign Minister Datuk Seri Hishamuddin Tun Hussein, in his immediate response to latest development in the Gaza Strip today, also said that the international community must work together on a robust package of support for a swift, sustainable reconstruction and recovery of Palestine. He said the Zionist regime's attacks have left hundreds dead, including 65 children and 39 women, and thousands more injured. Datuk Seri Hishamuddin also said that Malaysia conveys its deepest condolences to all victims of the violence. G20 leaders, the European Union and global institutions gathered today for a virtual summit on how to recover from the coronavirus pandemic and, crucially, how to prevent it happening again. The EU is expected to announce a new initiative to support local manufacturing in Africa, as the leaders emphasize the importance of scaling up vaccination efforts, including through the COVAX vaccine sharing program. But the final declaration is not expected to endorse the contentious idea of a temporary global waiver on patent protections for coronavirus vaccines. EU and Italian officials said the leaders will also agree a set of guidelines on how to prevent a repeat of the crisis, from investing in global healthcare system to better exchange of data and improved surveillance of human and animal diseases. Both Brussels and Rome emphasized the survivors cast from Brazil and India to the United States, Turkey, China, Russia and Singapore as proof that the world can come together to deal with COVID-19. Some 20 heads of state and government and 12 international organizations, including the World Health Organization (WHO), African Union, WTO and World Bank, are taking part in the summit. The leaders are expected to emphasize their support for the WHO's Access to COVID Tools Act Accelerator, which aims to help develop and ensure access to vaccines, medicines and tests against COVID-19 and strengthen healthcare systems, although it was not clear if there would be any funding commitments. While highlighting the need to boost vaccine manufacturing capacity, the final declaration is expected to note the need to avoid supply bottlenecks and avoid further ban on exports. Coming up in sports, Malaysia to host Men's World Team Squash Championship in December. Malaysia is set to host the 2021 World Squash Federation WSF Men's World Team Squash Championship after a 24-year gap at the National Squash Centre in Bukit Jalil from 7th to 11th December. The World Meet, originally slated in Tauranga, New Zealand, had to be moved due to the strict travel restrictions in the country to curb the COVID-19 pandemic, in which entry to passengers from all countries is currently strictly controlled. According to WSF's announcement in its website, it will also be the first time the tournament is held in Asia since 2007 edition in Chennai, India. WSF President Zena Wooldridge said the Squash Rackets Association of Malaysia (SRAM) has considerable pedigree in organizing major squash events, adding WSF is fortunate to have such a capable and willing alternative host. Meanwhile, SRAM President Jurat Monteiro expressed his gratitude to Zena and WSF for acknowledging its capabilities by awarding the prestigious tournament hosting rights. That concludes this evening's news at 10. In our top story, MKN meeting agrees to tighten implementation of MCO 3.0. Join us again at 12:30 tomorrow afternoon. I'm Shuhaida Arifin. Stay tuned to saluran Berita RTM and have a pleasant evening.